Hello and welcome to the North Coast Journal Preview. This is a show where we take a look at the current edition of the North Coast Journal. My name is Ruby Cayenne. We are joined as usual by the North Coast Journal's news editor, Thad Greenson. Welcome.
Jumped the gun there. I apologize.
Oh, good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah. Little bleary-eyed, ready for Jen to come back and lighten the load a little bit, but doing well.
I'm very glad. It's great to hear. We've got a pretty strong lineup. Well, scratch that. We have a really strong lineup this week in the North Coast Journal. And Thad, I'd love if you could tell us what's on the cover this week.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got, as you said, a pretty chunky edition this week with some fun stuff in it. But on the cover, we have a wonderful photo essay from Mark Larson, the former Cal Poly Humboldt journalism professor turned freelance photographer who is a regular, thankfully, in our pages. And he had never been to the Fortuna Rodeo, and we asked him to go check it out for us this year. And he came back with just wonderful photos that kind of defy description on on TV or the radio. But he really wanted to focus in on kind of the athleticism of the rodeo, and so really went to some of the bull riding and bronco events and competitions, and then also some of the youth competitions, like the mutton busting, which is little kids riding sheep and is always adorable. And I was just really taken aback by his photos, and that he really managed to capture just how dynamic some of these events are, how dangerous some of these events are, and how wildly skilled the folks that compete in them are. It's a pretty impressive spread in the journal, and then we'll have more photos online on Thursday in a large slideshow.
From what I've seen of the photos, I can agree that they are very stunning. He's got that eye for that peak action moment. It's really excellent.
Yeah, it's really impressive. And I have to say, it's rodeo photography is very much sports photography. I mean, it's these dynamic, fast moving scenes. And, what we mostly know of Mark Larson's work is nature photography and then just kind of community events. And so that's generally my favorite stuff that he does is stuff from, he's an avid hiker and walker, and stuff from his various trips around Humboldt County of kind of the scenic beauty. And then going to, Oyster Festival or Farmers Market and those kinds of events where he really captures these just like, really poignant slices of life in Humboldt County. And this is a much different type of photography and takes a much different skill set. And he just nailed it. I was just really, really blown away by the photos.
I'm so excited to see all of them up on the website. That'll be really awesome.
It's a good spread. Our production folks had a pretty terrible time choosing what to include in print. I think they mocked up 3 or 4 different covers with different images he had. So it was a target-rich environment.
I could imagine the challenge in that when you've just got a plethora of excellent photos, such excellent photography. It's like, how do you pick? How do you choose? But those editors, you guys have the eye for that. And I think that from what I can tell, you did an excellent job. So.
Well, I appreciate that, but it's not my doing. I work with the photographer and take the batch of photos and then hand them off to our production and graphic design folks. And I tell them all the time, I'm a simple words person. So I give them the images and let them wrestle over what makes the best composition and the best layout.
Absolutely. And do you have any final thoughts about this story?
I would just say that personally, rodeo is not my thing. And like as I said, I've never been to the Fortuna Rodeo. But even not going into it with an appreciation for the event or the sport, I really appreciate the just kind of what's on display. And again, really appreciate Mark Larson for making it down there and capturing it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for that story, Thad. I highly suggest that people pick up the North Coast Journal and read the complete story. Okay, so let's transition over to some other news that's going on. I believe that there was some things happening with a local teacher. I'd love to hear about that, and I'm sure the people would.
Yeah, this is a story that we actually first ran in the Ferndale Enterprise, which North Coast Journal Inc. also owns. It's about a Fortuna teacher, Janelle Hodges. And actually, I just kind of the backstory of how this profile came about was with the Enterprise, we work with a local photographer, Sandy Peterson, who is based in Fortuna and photographs events and does lots of wonderful stuff down there. And I was reaching out to her about something else, and she just said, hey, I just did this photo session with this wonderful teacher, and she's got this amazing story. You should talk to her. And I was like, well, what's her story? And she kind of gave me a quick Reader's Digest version. And I was just captivated, and so asked Linda Stansberry, our former staffer and regular freelancer who we work with a lot, if she'd be interested. And Linda was, and I had to say Linda just hit the story out of the park. It was just a wonderful profile of somebody who's overcome a lot of adversity in her life and is really intent on kind of being. Well, I think she says it best in the story. She says, that for her, teachers were the people in her life that believed in her, and that, kind of gave her the idea that she could be something more than her immediate surroundings. And so ever since kind of having those teachers touch her life in that way, she decided, it was her dream to become a teacher and to be able to do the same thing for other generations of kids. And so the story details kind of the challenges she had growing up, and she grew up in a house where illiteracy was pretty prevalent. She was even, in third, fourth grade, was one of the only people in her household who could read, and spent a lot of time interpreting for the adults in her family, and just kind of realized how stifling that was for them, and how limiting. And then was, like I said, had a teacher who really kind of touched her heart, and when she was, I think, in third grade, and that really motivated her. And then, as with all of us, sometimes we have dreams, and sometimes life happens and kind of postpones those. And so she adopted a child who turned out to have special needs, and had some other things change with her family that just really demanded her, her full attention. And going to school to get a teaching credential just didn't seem possible, and really wasn't possible. She needed to work and support her family. And, I think 15, 20 years later, she got to a place where her kids were old enough, and some of the dynamics of her family had changed, and she felt like she could start to work toward this goal. And so started taking an online teaching credential course through Fresno State, and then got the opportunity this past year to do her student teaching, which is a requirement of all teaching credential programs, but to do it in a real classroom as kind of I think they labeled it as an interim teacher. California has this massive teacher shortage right now, and so they're trying to do these various programs to address it, and this was one, allowing folks doing kind of their last year of credentialing to do it in a classroom and actually as kids' real teachers. So she taught first grade at Lionel K. Walker Elementary in Fortuna, and then upon her graduating from the credential program and getting the credential at the end of the school year, she had the choice of going down to Fresno to participate in their official commencement ceremony, or because it was a remote program, not, and doing something else. And she chose to celebrate with her first graders, and that's how Sandy got involved. She asked Sandy to photograph their little celebration, and it's just, the pictures are adorable, and enough to kind of give a lump in your throat. And the story, Linda again just did a fantastic job of capturing somebody, a really special person who's really trying to make a difference in young lives, which is beautiful.
That's so inspiring, and it's really those kinds of stories that we hear that remind me of the beauty and the strength in humanity. And so I love to hear it, and I love that journey for her. She was able to get to that place where she can be with the kids, and she's doing everything. So that's really awesome.
I think it's a really special story. I really hope everybody will pick it up and check it out. And I will just dovetail here a little bit to add and admit my bias. I'm married to a teacher who's taught up here in Humboldt for 20 years now, and teachers are just really, really special folk at all levels, but especially elementary school teachers. And it just Janelle in the story that we ran really, I think, just vocalized a spirit that I've seen in teachers really throughout the county of just, getting up every day, driven to make a difference in the lives of kids, and especially the lives of kids who, for whom school is a refuge and a safe space. So just go hug the teachers in your lives, tell them that you appreciate them.
Absolutely. I can really relate to that. So knowing that there's teachers out there who are committed to coming in every day with their best foot forward,
Mm-hmm.
it's better than a good thing. That is something that I myself want to read the whole story for. I want to read all these stories, but that's really exciting. Definitely something to keep your eyes out open for. Kind of transitioning over, there's another story that is equally, as inspiring, I feel, but has to do more with hunger. So that I'd love if you could tell us about that.
Yeah, and a little bit of a flip side of the coin. We ran a story it's actually by the Alta Journal, but who looked at hunger and food insecurity on not just Humboldt County, but on the North Coast more generally. But and so we were able to kind of tweak their story a little bit to be a bit more Humboldt County focused, and ran it in this week's paper. And so, it's kind of documenting a problem that I think, most of us who follow the news in Humboldt are aware of, but that, food insecurity is real here, and that, 14% of residents in Humboldt County experience food insecurity regularly, not being sure, every week or every month that they're going to be able to put enough food on the table. They also note that, the data shows that to make a living wage in Humboldt County, you'd have to bring in, average household would have to bring in about, I think it's $76,000, and the median income is about $20,000 below that. And so they're, whether they all fall in that 14% who are food insecure or not, there are definitely lots and lots of households really, really stretching to make ends meet in Humboldt. And it's a pervasive problem that's just been made worse by the pandemic, especially. And what I did is, as you said, there's an uplifting element to the story. And what I really appreciate about the story is it really focused on the efforts of Food for People, especially, which is just a stalwart nonprofit in our community that it's not a stretch to say has kept people satiated and saved lives, especially, in recent years through the pandemic, when they have repeatedly talked about just seeing a kind of an astronomical need, and an unprecedented need in this community. One thing, I guess the two things I really want folks to take away from reading the story is, one is that, if you are food insecure, there is help. There is an organization, an army of volunteers that is there to help you. And so check out Food for People's website. Call them. They have regular food pantry hours, and they do, larger scale food distributions very regularly. And then, if you're lucky enough to be food secure and know that you're set for the month, but have a little bit of extra time, Food for People, a little bit of extra time or a little bit of extra money. Food for People is constantly in need of donors and volunteers. And so check out their website and see how to get involved and see how to be a part of the solution.
I second that wholeheartedly. And to speak frankly, EBT has become such a challenge to navigate. There's so much paperwork involved. There's so many things that most people who are struggling in some ways honestly can't keep up with all of that. And so Food for People has been they've come in and filled that gap. And like you said, have kept people alive. So
yeah. Well, that's a great point that you made. I've talked to, and it's not in the story, but I've talked to eligibility outreach people who work with the County of Humboldt to get people enrolled in CalFresh and other programs. And they say it's I forget the figure off the top of my head, but they estimated a pretty staggering percent of people who are eligible for these programs never enroll. And I think that's, I think that's what you're saying. What you're getting at is that there's some really high bars to entry to get enrolled. It takes a certain amount of time and follow through that can be really challenging when, you're trying to work multiple jobs to keep food on the table.
That is great that you guys brought a highlight to that so that people, stay reminded that that's still going on, because as life moves forward, sometimes those things get lost in the wayside. So thank you all for that so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
So moving on to something a little less news related and a little more delicious related, if I don't say so myself. There's some information thanks to Jennifer Fumiko Cahill, the art and features editor. She wrote a piece talking about something that's going on with the local food truck. If you could fill us in on that, that'd be excellent.
Yes, well, I'm looking at hunger data and food insecurity figures for Humboldt County. Jen is exploring food trucks because she is winning in life. No, she wrote a wonderful piece for us about Pineapple Express, which is a food truck that has been around for a handful of years, was based down in southern Humboldt, but recently has relocated north, unfortunately, because of the kind of plummeting economy in southern Humboldt due to the crashing of the cannabis market. She said, she really loved the community down there, but just could not stay open and keep her people employed down there, which is a shame, but it is, I guess to the benefit of northern Humboldt, where I'm sorry, I didn't mention her name. Cody Nishimoto runs the truck and does most of the cooking, and so she decided to move up north and now has a kind of regular circuit up in this part of the county, and it's. I really love this story, and it actually kind of fits pretty well with the one we talked about with Janelle Hodges down in Fortuna, but sometimes things get in the way of what we want to do, and sometimes we just don't realize what we really want to do in life until later. And so Cody told Jen that she'd never cooked growing up, and in fact is from Hawaii, came to Humboldt State, and she says that she didn't even know how to cook a box of mac and cheese when she got to Humboldt State, and said it seriously. And then, one day, kind of cooked with some friends and was like, wow, I can do this, and it's kind of fun. And then just got, invested herself in cooking more and more and more, and really developed a love for food and a love for feeding people. And then, found that as this entryway to kind of explore her heritage and her culture in a different light, and learn to kind of cook and master some of the dishes that she'd really grown up with in Hawaii and with her family, and then kind of went all in to buy the pineapple, or to start the Pineapple Express food truck, and then has worked to craft a menu that kind of fits Humboldt and fits people's tastes in Humboldt while still being true to the recipes and the dishes that she grew up with.
Like you said, at the loss for Southern Humboldt, but for us, I am elated to have them up here. It's not only some of my favorite food truck food, but my favorite food in general. I can't get enough of it. When I think about it, my mouth waters. Really.
So you've been to Pineapple Express?
Oh yeah, I love them. I follow them around.
It's fantastic. I haven't been, but reading the story, I was just like, I absolutely need to go. The Kahlua Pig wonton nachos sound out of this world good. And what was the other one? There's the mammoth sandwich that has the SGC Sumbrele, I think it's called, or something. But it's like a fried chicken sandwich with Hawaiian macaroni salad on top. And it just, Jen was like, don't even try to pick it up. Just go in with fork and knife, because anything else is a fool's errand. But it looked so good in the pictures. Do you have a favorite dish?
Yeah, I haven't tried the mammoth one yet, but for me, it's the garlic chicken, the spicy garlic chicken. That sauce that they marinate that chicken in and put on top of it, I would take a bath in it. It's incredible. So
that is fantastic. I can't wait to try it.
Do you like spicy food?
I do. I like spicy food, but I have a limit. I'm not one of the ghost pepper people or something like that. but a little kick, a little heat I can do.
It's not a horrible spice, but it's there and it really adds to it. So personally, I'd suggest the spicy one, but it comes regular too.
Nice. Well, I just want to go there and order everything.
Yes. Looking at this article is making me wonder, oh, where are they at today? Maybe I'll. But
I know when I was proofreading, I proofread it and then sent it over to Kali, our calendar editor, and she was just texting me like while reading, just like, oh my gosh, this is making me so hungry.
The smells that come out of the truck, even when you're standing there, is enough to hook you.
All right, you're sealing it. I'm gonna have to track them down tonight, I think.
Please do, please do. We've got another one lined up that is not about food, but it's more about community and being outdoors. And there's some kids who are taken to walking around Humboldt, and I'd love to hear about that from you.
Yeah, we have a story actually by Mark Larson, the aforementioned photographer, and about a book that has just come out that is about hiking in Humboldt with kids. And it's by Reese Hughes, who used to actually write for the Journal a long time ago, but is an avid outdoors person, and loves getting out on the trails of Humboldt County. And this book, he's written other hiking guides to Humboldt County, but this book came about through a really unique partnership with First Five Humboldt, just looking for ways to get families outdoors, and to get especially families with young kids outdoors, and get kids habituated to exercise and healthy lifestyles and being outside. So they got a grant and got Reese to put together this book, which is really is geared toward parents of young children who want to get out on the trails. And it's rate or kind of describes every every hike with the parameters that a parent would want to know, like how steep is this thing, how long is this thing, is it a loop, can we turn back at any time, are there bathrooms, just really the key information. And as a parent of a child who's no longer that young, but I would have loved to have this as a guide when she was, because I think I don't know. I think most parents who are into hiking and exploring in the outdoors have had that moment when you get on a trail that is just more than you thought it would be. And you're about halfway through a loop and you're facing a horrible hill and you're just like, well, your kid is exhausted and you're like, why did I do this? So Reese is here to avoid those pitfalls, or to help parents avoid those pitfalls.
Yeah, that's the thing about Humboldt trails, is you never quite know what you're getting into. And so this book is just such an essential piece of information for kids. I could also see it being useful for people who have disabilities. Mm-hmm. I think there's like so many applications for it. So it's really great that he took the time to kind of vet those things out so that you're not just left to the mystery of the trails of Humboldt. Whether they get you, whether they don't, you'll find out when you get there, I guess. Now you won't. Now you'll know beforehand.
Yeah, such a great tool for local families, and a way to really inspire some local families who maybe wouldn't get out and hike to go give it a try. And to go through it with their kids, and to empower their kids to choose what trail sounds most interesting and stuff like that. It's neat.
Yeah, it's great. From what I've heard, it's getting harder and harder to get kids outside. So this is a little boost. Little motivational boost for them.
Indeed.
Is there anything on the calendar that you'd like to quickly point out? I know we're running out of time a little bit here, but if there's something.
Yeah, I guess two things real quick. The Auto Expo is going on in Fortuna this weekend. So if you missed Rodeo or just didn't get enough of the friendly city, the cars will be out and about in Fortuna. And then across the bridge in Ferndale, the Lost Coast Kennel Club is holding its agility trials this weekend at the fairgrounds. And so if you like dogs and are interested in watching them tear around an obstacle course, this is your chance this weekend.
That's great to know. I'm definitely going to try to get out at least for one of those. Well, thank you so much for all of that excellent information, Thad. And that's about all the time that we have for this week, but the current edition of the North Coast Journal is on newsstands now, so please go pick up a copy and read the full story of all of these that we touched on because they're all so excellent. You can also find them 24/7 at northcoastjournal.com. Thad, thank you so much.
Thanks, Ruby. It's been a pleasure.